The pomegranate, with its vibrant color and juicy seed-filled interior, has captured the imagination of diverse cultures throughout history. In the biblical context, this fruit is not a mere botanical reference. Its presence in Scripture is loaded with symbolism and spiritual meaning. From priestly vestments to descriptions of the Promised Land, the pomegranate appears in multiple passages, inviting us to explore its relevance in the sacred narrative. In the Old Testament, the pomegranate is mentioned as one of the fruits that adorned the Promised Land, a land flowing with milk and honey, highlighting its abundance and fertility. This reference not only highlights the agricultural wealth of the region, but also symbolizes the prosperity and divine blessing bestowed upon the people of Israel. Furthermore, in the book of Exodus, God instructs Moses to have the high priest's vestments include pomegranates embroidered on the hem of the robe, interspersed with golden bells. This detail in the priestly attire suggests a connection between the pomegranate and holiness, purity, and communication with the divine. The internal structure of the pomegranate, with its numerous seeds, has led to interpretations that associate it with fertility and multiplication. Some Jewish traditions hold that the 613 seeds of the pomegranate correspond to the 613 commandments of the Torah, establishing a link between the fruit and divine law. This association reinforces the idea that the pomegranate is a symbol of plenitude and fulfillment of God's will. In the Song of Songs, the pomegranate is used as a metaphor to describe beauty and love. For example, the blush on the beloved's cheeks is compared to the segments of a pomegranate, evoking images of passion and desire. This representation suggests that the pomegranate also symbolizes intimacy and deep connection between lovers and, by extension, between God and His people. The presence of the pomegranate in Solomon's temple is another significant aspect. The capitals of the temple columns were adorned with rows of pomegranates, indicating that this fruit had a prominent place in sacred architecture. This decoration not only beautified the temple, but also served as a reminder of abundance and divine blessing. Throughout Scripture, the pomegranate emerges as a symbol representing abundance, fertility, beauty, and holiness. Its presence in such diverse contexts suggests that this fruit holds profound truths about the relationship between God and humanity. By exploring biblical references to the pomegranate, we can gain a richer understanding of its meaning and the spiritual lessons it offers. This fruit has figured prominently in ancient religious and cultural contexts, especially in the biblical world, where it symbolized divine favor, fertility, and spiritual depth. Its significance in the Bible goes far beyond its mere existence as a fruit. Pomegranate contains deep meanings related to God's covenant with His people, the promise of abundance, and the holiness linked to ritual practices. To truly understand its significance, it is essential to explore the historical and biblical references that highlight its multifaceted role. In ancient Israel, the pomegranate was not simply a common fruit, but a symbol deeply rooted in the national identity and religious practices of the people. When God spoke to Moses about the Promised Land, He described it as a land flowing with milk and honey, Deuteronomy 8:8. Among the 7 species listed to represent the richness of this land, the pomegranate is mentioned alongside wheat, barley, grapevines, fig trees, olive oil, and honey. This inclusion highlighted the importance of the pomegranate as a symbol of divine blessing and prosperity. The abundance of pomegranates in that land served as a tangible representation of God's promise to His chosen people. The land was not only rich in physical resources, but also spiritually significant, indicating God's commitment to sustain His people. Furthermore, the pomegranate had a special place in the religious rituals of the Israelites, especially in relation to the priesthood. In the book of Exodus 28:33-34, God gave specific instructions to Moses regarding the garments of the high priest. These garments were to include pomegranates, made of threads of blue, purple, and scarlet on the hem of the robe, interspersed with golden bells. The combination of pomegranates and bells was not merely decorative. It carried deep symbolic meaning. Pomegranates represented the fruitfulness and blessings that come from following God's law, while bells symbolized the high priest's presence before God, ensuring that his ministry was heard in the most holy place. This blend of symbolism highlights the interconnection between obedience, holiness, and divine favor. Solomon, Israel's wisest king, also integrated the pomegranate symbol into the design of the first temple. According to 1 Kings 7:20, the two pillars at the entrance to the temple, known as Jachin and Boaz, were adorned with rows of pomegranates. Each capital was surrounded by 200 pomegranates, which served as both decorative elements and symbols of abundance. This ornamental choice was not accidental. It was a deliberate representation of the pomegranate's connection to fertility, life, and God's continued provision. By incorporating the fruit into the temple's architecture, Solomon was emphasizing that the temple itself was a source of spiritual abundance, just as the promised land was for the Israelites. The pomegranate also appears prominently in one of the most poetic and intimate books in the Bible, the Song of Songs. Known for its vivid imagery and celebration of love, this book uses the pomegranate as a metaphor for beauty, desire, and deep affection. For example, in Song of Solomon 4:3, the beloved's temples are compared to the segments of a pomegranate, symbolizing both the richness of love and the beauty hidden within. The numerous seeds of the fruit serve as a metaphor for the countless virtues of the beloved and the deep, passionate connection between the two. This metaphor goes beyond romantic love, reflecting the profound covenant relationship between God and His people. The use of the pomegranate in this context underscores that divine love is abundant, fruitful, and eternally rewarding. However, the pomegranate's significance was not limited to Israel alone. It also had deep meaning in the cultures of the ancient Near East. In these civilizations, the pomegranate was often associated with deities of fertility and life, due to its large number of seeds that symbolized abundance and regeneration. This cultural symbolism likely influenced how the Israelites viewed the pomegranate, though they reinterpreted it through their unique theological lens. Biblical authors adapted existing symbols, infusing them with new meaning to align with their understanding of God's character and His covenant with His people. In Jewish tradition, pomegranate symbolism has endured throughout the centuries. During Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, it is customary to consume pomegranates in the hope that good deeds in the coming year will be as numerous as their seeds. This practice is deeply rooted in the belief that the pomegranate contains 613 seeds, corresponding to the 613 commandments of the Torah. Although the actual number of seeds may vary, the symbolic association remains significant, emphasizing a life filled with good deeds and adherence to God's commands. This idea of spiritual fruitfulness reflects the biblical theme of living a life that produces good spiritual fruit. Another intriguing aspect of the pomegranate's symbolism is its possible connection to the Garden of Eden. While many assume that the forbidden fruit was an apple, some Jewish scholars argue that it may have been a pomegranate. This theory is based on the fruit's symbolism in relation to knowledge, fertility, and temptation in several ancient texts. The idea that the pomegranate was the fruit that led to the fall of humanity adds another layer of complexity to its role in the biblical narrative, symbolizing the duality of knowledge and the consequences of disobeying God's commandments. The pomegranate, therefore, was not only an essential food, but also a reminder of God's relationship with His people. Its symbolic richness and constant presence in Scripture invite deeper reflection on abundance, beauty, and holiness in our lives. Through the pomegranate, the message of spiritual prosperity and faithfulness to God resonates from generation to generation. If this video has inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. And of course, share your experiences in the comments. Together, we can build a strong and positive community. Thank you for joining us on this journey of growth and transformation. See you in the next video.